Mr. Vice President, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, very good.
Mr. President, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Mr. Vice President. Can you hear us?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Are you ready, Patricia? Okay. Good morning, everybody. Thank you. The time is now 9:33 a.m. Today is Tuesday, August 16, 2022. This is the time and place for our regularly scheduled business meeting. Call this meeting to order. Would the other commissioners please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you, commissioners. You have Commissioners O'Donnell, Pinocci, Fielder, myself, and appearing in person in the Bollinger Room, and then Vice President Johnson is attending remotely. So we do have quorum this morning. We will now turn to public comment. Do we have any public commenters in the room? Seeing none, do we have any public commenters online? We do not. Okay, we do have one change to the agenda this morning. We're going to defer work session item number 1, which is commission initiated discussion of the 2021 Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. We will defer that to the next business meeting, which will be August 23rd, 2022. All right, let's move to action items. So action item number 1 is approval of the commission minutes for the week of August 8th, 2022. Is there a motion? Commissioner Pinocci has moved. Is there a second?
Second that.
Commissioner Fielder has seconded. Discussions, revisions, or changes to the draft minutes for the week of August 8th, 2022. Seeing none, all those in favor of Commissioner Pinocci's motion signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed signify by saying no. Seeing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. Minutes are approved. Action item number 2 is approval of out-of-state travel. Will, since you're senior, we'll start with you.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. President. So staff requests approval for Joel Tierney and one program inspector to travel to Charleston, West Virginia, September 19th through the 23rd to attend the national meeting of the National Association of Pipeline Safety Representatives. I sent an email yesterday afternoon explaining that this attendance at this meeting is mandatory for the inspection program as part of the certification from PHMSA. And the cost of the travel will be funded from the federal grant. We estimated a cost of approximately $3,000 per person, but due to some work yesterday and switching to departing from Bozeman rather than Helena, we've cut that down to, we've cut the flight cost down about half. So looking now at about more like $2,500.
I thought we would just move these in bulk unless there's objection.
Mr. Chairman, I did have a particular question on this. You say the cost of this is coming out of the money that we get. Is it in addition to the money that we get? Are they covering travel, or is it basically costing the commission money that would have gone to our budget from PHMSA?
Mr. President, Commissioner O'Donnell, so every year the commission gets a federal grant. And out of that federal grant, this travel would be paid from that grant. So it's not like we get reimbursed from PHMSA for this specific travel. It's built in, it's assumed to be part of that overall federal grant.
No, I have no objection. I just was curious about that point. Thank you.
So we have multiple requests for travel this morning, so I thought we'd just do them in bulk with one motion unless there's objection. Mr. Reed.
Thank you, Mr. President. I come here today to request that that the commission authorize Dan Stusek to travel to the Fall 22 Joint CREPSI-WERAB meeting. As the commission is no doubt aware, this is put on by the Western Conference of PSC Commissioners and the Western Interstate Board, as well as the Committee for Regional Power Cooperation. The primary agenda topics here are going to be wholesale electricity markets, the FERC perspective on those markets, and state perspectives on grid resilience funding. The Western Interstate Board has secured significant funding from the U.S. Department of Energy. And so the total cost to the commission for this 3-day meeting will be approximately $1,200, including travel.
Questions on that travel request?
Just a comment. I'm glad to see Mr. Suzik's interest in attending CREPSI because I know he had gone to CREPSI before, and I think it's good for consistency to have the same staff member attending the same meetings.
I concur in that statement. Additional comment or questions? All right, if not, Patricia.
Good morning, President and Commissioners. Staff request approval for Philip English, IT Systems Analyst, to travel to Denver, Colorado, September 7th through the 9th, to attend NARUC cybersecurity training. The training content will focus on cybersecurity topics through the lens of the public utility regulator. Subject matter experts recruited from around the country will make presentations, lead engaging activities, and offer topical and timely boots on the ground perspectives. Registration for the cybersecurity training is free. The cost to the agency for travel and hotel will be approximately $1,500.
Very good. Thank you. Questions, comments? Okay, I will move to approve the 3 requests for staff travel. Is there a second?
Second the motion, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President.
Motion's been seconded. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of my motion to approve staff travel signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed signify by saying no. Seeing no opposition, the 3 requests for travel are approved. Thank you. All right, let's move into the work session. As noted, item number 1 on our work session, which was the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act discussion, is deferred till next week. So we'll move to work session item number 2. This is docket 2020.07.078 commission initiated. We're here to discuss appointing an ALSB hearing officer, to consider appointing hearing officer from the Attorney General's Agency Legal Services Bureau to handle discovery disputes in docket 2022.07.078, which is Northwestern Energy's rate case. Mr. Reed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the commission, there's no accompanying memorandum for this request. I would note that we have a significant amount of money that has been set aside for our use with Agency Legal Services Bureau for appointment of a hearings officer. We have been functionally unable to expend that money. This seems like an excellent way to both make efficient use of ALSB's resources and free up staff time for discovery disputes. I would note that the hearings officer for ALSB would only be handling disputes over discovery that had been initiated by parties other than Public Service Commission staff. So Public Service Commission staff data requests, to the degree that those are disputed, those will be handled by the Public Service Commission.
Is there a motion? I'll move to appoint an ALSB hearing officer to handle the discovery disputes in docket 2022.07.078 Northwestern's rate case. Is there a second? seconded by Commissioner Pinochi. Discussion? I think you, Mr. Reed stated it accurately. We were appropriated money from the legislature, from the Appropriations Committee, for the use of a hearings officer through ALSB. I think this would be an appropriate use of that source of funding. And it should relieve some of the burden on our legal staff, because as we all know, Northwestern Energy's rate case is going to be a substantial lift. And so I appreciate that our legal staff is going to be under a tremendous workload. And so any help that we can provide in making that process more smooth, I think is a wise policy decision. Additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of my motion signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed signify by saying no. Seeing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. Mr. Reed. We're moved to work session item number 3, which is docket 2021.09.117. This is Montana Dakota Utilities. We're here to act on MDU's 2021 Integrated Resource Plan, the IRP, to discuss issuing commission comments in response to MDU's 2021 IRP. Mr. Dalton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, commissioners. This work session has been called so the commission can consider whether it would like to issue comments on Montana Dakota Utilities 2021 Integrated Resource Plan. On September 15, 2021, MDU filed its 2021 IRP with the commission. Montana Code annotated 69-3-1205 requires the commission to review the plan, allow for a minimum of 60 days for the public to comment on the plan, and hold 2 public meetings to receive comment on the IRP. The statute also allows the commission to issue comments on the plan, but it is not required. Staff has reviewed the 2021 IRP and finds that it generally complies with the commission's planning rules. The commission has already complied with the requirements to receive comments on the IRP that are set forth in MCA 69-3-1205. Staff has distributed a draft set of comments on MDU's IRP for the commission to consider. The document has 3 sections: a summary of the 2021 IRP and its results, a summary of comments received from interested stakeholders, and a section that contains some comments from the commission for MDU to consider as it prepares for its next plan. Staff distributed draft comments to commissioners last week, so I won't go over every aspect of the document during the work session this morning. Staff recommends the commission approve the issuance of the draft comments, subject to review by the commission's legal department and any edits to the comments from the commission. I know that Commissioner Fielder has one edit she would like to include in paragraph 49, but I'll let her talk about that. And with that, Mr. President, I am available for any questions from the commission.
Commissioner Fielder.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, I'm sorry. All right, I move that that the commission does render comments on MDU's IRP. And that this be considered the starting point for those comments, pending further circulation and finalization before the commission.
Okay, so as I understand your motion, what you're seeking is to authorize staff to move forward with submittal of comments, but to work with commissioners on finalizing the comments.
Yes, to consider this the draft comment, not the final comment.
Okay, so you would anticipate bringing this matter back before the commission for final approval?
Yes, I would.
Okay, all right. That has been seconded by Commissioner O'Donnell. Discussion? Commissioner Fielder?
Yes, Mr. President and colleagues, the amendment that I'm requesting is found in paragraph 49. You're looking at the order. And it has to do with the commission agreeing with DEQ that MDU should explore potential related to residential demand response programs. And I would like our comment to read that we would like MDU to explore potential pros and cons. I think that both sides of that equation need to be considered. There are concerns with demand side response, and there are obviously benefits associated with it as well. So I'd like our comment to be amended so that it says the MDU should explore potential pros and cons related to residential demand response programs.
Thanks, very good. Commissioner O'Donnell?
Thank you. Well, it's not a hearing to get information from MDU, but I just wanted to share along with Commissioner Fielder's motion for still accumulating comments on this thing, that one of the things that is of great concern to me is what plans MDU is making to take into account winter peaks, which the general feeling is that maybe not shared by all, but the general feeling is that extreme weather events are going to be more frequent and more intense. And I'm not certain that that I feel that MDU has really discussed that thoroughly. So, and the other thing is that they have modeled, I think, high and low gas prices from, I think, a high of $5, a low of $1 or $2. And I'm interested in what thoughts that they have made for flexibility in case the gas prices go significantly higher than that, as has also been, well, not foretold, but predicted by some people who may be right and may be wrong. But I just like to learn more about what MDU's planning is for those. Even the FERC NOPR that's come out having to do with extreme weather effects upon transmission and generation mix. The focus seems to be more and more now, which I'm very, very happy about in terms of the effect of extreme weather events on systems. So I would like to know, I would like MDU to go more in depth on the answers to those very points.
Do you want to respond to that at all, Ms. Belton?
Mr. President, Commissioner O'Donnell, if you'd like me to respond, I certainly can. If that's something you'd like to include in the comments, we can certainly do that.
Yes.
I guess I'll try and respond to some of it. So with regard to MDU planning for the winter months, as you know, MDU is a member of the regional trade organization MISO. And right now, one of the constructs of MISO, well, MISO is a summer peaking system right now. So each member of MISO is required to plan for their load at the time of the MISO summer peak. So that's what MDU does. And that's the only requirement that exists today under MISO. MDU does run, when MDU runs portfolios through AEGIS in its IRP, it does limit the number of market purchases that AEGIS is allowed to make from MISO, including during the summer months. So that means within AEGIS during the summer months, AEGIS is dispatching MDU's owned resources and limiting the amount of market purchases it can make and testing that. And I can say that MDU is meeting its load in the winter months under that test. That doesn't mean we can't include comments in this document to suggest MDU that to MDU that they should maybe be doing more or looking at more of the winter months a little bit more closely. So we can certainly include comments like that. And then with regard to is your second question about market prices then, extreme weather events affecting market prices? So
No, not necessarily that, just the market, you know, for gas, which is certainly higher than it was historically. And again, some people who claim to be experts indicate that they expect it to go even far higher than this. And I just wanted to know if MDU has given any serious consideration to what they might do should that happen. I'm not looking for any particular answers on things, just I would have a lot more confidence in an IRP if I was really convinced that the people putting it together had considered all of the different options, no matter how remote.
Sure. So, Mr. President, Commissioner O'Donnell, I think that would make an excellent comment that we could add to this document, because obviously we can't change what's in the 2021 IRP. All we can do is encourage MDU to change what's in the next IRP. So that's something we could include in these comments. The other item you might want to consider is, as you know, MDU has a planning group that meets periodically in between the resource plans that it files with the commission. Right now, the Montana Commission doesn't have a staff member that sits in on that group. But if you're interested in kind of what MDU is thinking about in between plans, that might be an option, is to ask a staff member to sit in on that group and provide you with updates following each meeting that they have. That might be an option.
Well,
Follow.
thank you. So just to share my thinking on this point, which is not matured into a resolution or anything else like this, but because things have been changing so at such an accelerated pace, the conditions that an IRP, the assumptions that they make at the time, that there's the condition of whether or not information is stale. And so it would seem to me that would be something to look at in the future, would be to require utilities to give like a 6-month update on whether or not anything significantly had changed in their thinking along this line. I know that if conditions significantly change, I have confidence in our utilities that they're going to pay attention to that, and they're going to be flexible on that regard. I don't have any doubt about that. It's just that the whole purpose of the IRP is to inform the commission. And it seems to me, with things changing so quickly, that a 6-month update, and not calling for a new report, but just to say a one-sheet thing. If nothing has changed, fine, nothing has changed. That's perfectly fine with me. But if there is something significantly that has changed, for instance, MDU, I see has a long-term contract with Minn Kota, okay, and they have indicated that one of their major supply sources is a plant. Didn't identify what type of plant it is, with 4 owners, and that there is some concern that the owners may disagree. Where have we ever seen that before? And that it may result in the closing down of that plant, which is a major resource of theirs. That would be a circumstance that would be worth noting in something. So also you mentioned about MISO's requirements for summer peaking, but not winter peaking. So if MISO did do that, that would be something important to know. If it was also talked about MDU possibly leaving MISO, going to SPP, that would change a bunch of assumptions, requirements that would be significant on there. And I think it would be useful for everybody concerned to know the impact of major changes in environment, circumstances, legal environment, or market environment, and how they might affect things. So it just be an informational type of thing. But I'm not making that recommendation now or asking for that. It's just the thought that is going through my head right now. Thank you.
Mr. Fielder?
Thank you, Mr. President. I think that, the starting point here that we have with these comments is really good. And, these comments acknowledge that the 2021 IRP generally complies with the commission's planning guidelines and administrative rule. And our comments here also recognize the real serious effort and quality of work that MDU has put into their 2021 IRP, and then makes recommendations for the next one. So I think that's where kind of our focus is in the next, as we review this further, is fine tuning those recommendations for the next IRP. But I don't think it's calling into question the quality of this IRP, at least the starting point motion that I made today.
Additional discussion?
Mr. President.
Mr. Vice President?
Thank you, Mr. President. I think Mr. Dalton's observation that we do not have a staff member that's participating in real time in those planning group meetings is really salient here. And I would suggest, and I don't know that it needs to be part of these comments, but just in terms of us moving forward, I would strongly urge us to request from MDU the opportunity to have a staff member participate in those planning group meetings, Mr. President.
Mr. Dalton?
Mr. President, Commissioner Johnson, Vice President Johnson. Yeah, the only thing I would add is actually I spoke to MDU because I was aware of Commissioner O'Donnell's concerns this morning. I did ask MDU this morning about whether or not they would be receptive towards some representative from the commission sitting in on those meetings, and they said absolutely they would. So that wouldn't be any problem.
Follow up, Mr. Vice President?
No, just that's good to hear. I think we just should make sure we move forward with actually making that happen.
Okay, thank you. Additional discussion or comment? Well, I would say that Commissioner Fielder's motion is prescient and cogent. There are clearly commissioners that would like to add additional points or comments to our commission comments, and so I will be supporting Commissioner Fielder's motion. Additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Commissioner Fielder's motion signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, same signify by saying no. Seeing no opposition, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Dalton. All right, let's move to business meeting item number, work session item number 4. This is docket 2021.12.134. Caithness Weaver Creek CBC 3 to consider motions for reconsideration from CBC and Northwestern Energy. Mr. Hamilton.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President and Commissioners. Last Friday, I circulated to you all the staff memo that summarized the disposition of each of the issues raised on reconsideration in the CBC3 docket. It wasn't so long ago that we were in front of the commission with the final order on this one. We did receive motions for reconsideration from both CBC and Northwestern Energy. The 50-ish page order on reconsideration included in your meeting materials walks through many, but admittedly not all of the issues raised on reconsideration to provide some additional analysis, some discussion of the arguments made, reconsideration on a couple of important issues, and then anything that's not specifically mentioned in the motion, the order, the draft order would be denied by operation of not being addressed in that order. So with the commission's indulgence, I'll just briefly walk through the two issues that were changed as a result of the parties' motions for reconsideration. The first is the resource portfolio that is used for modeling the avoided cost of energy. In the commission's original order, we had included a number of QFs as part of that portfolio for modeling. Specifically, Broadview, Meadowlark, and Upland Dillon are three of the QFs that were included in that model. On reconsideration, based on the record evidence that we have, there's really only one metric that the commission can refer to place those three projects in time in relation to the formation of CBC's own LEO, or legally enforceable obligation. And that's the date on which they submitted their unilaterally signed contracts to Northwestern Energy. Because Broadview, Meadowlark, and Upland Dillon all submitted their contracts to Northwestern Energy after CBC submitted its contract, the draft order on reconsideration would, in fact, revise the portfolio to remove those three projects and place CBC first in time ahead of those three resources for purposes of modeling the avoided costs. All other decisions regarding the resource portfolio used for modeling avoided costs would remain the same, even though there were arguments made to seek reconsideration of additional resources. The second major element of the order, which is identified by Roman numeral 5 in your staff memo, the second major element of the final order that's revised is the discussion on ancillary services. For the purposes of this reconsideration, we refer to Northwestern Energy's proposed power purchase agreement that left dispatch control in the hands of CVC. Since that was an element of the commission's final order, CVC will maintain its own dispatch control over its battery. In the version of the contract that Northwestern proposed, Northwestern did not assign the schedules 5 and 6 ancillary services to the batteries. Those schedules were only assigned to the wind resource. So as a result, it appears that Northwestern was ready to agree to a contract that did not assign schedules 5 and 6 to the battery elements of the CVC projects. To the extent that the final order imposed schedules 5 and 6 on those battery elements, that is going beyond what the parties appeared to be in agreement about. So the order on reconsideration reverses that. It exempts the batteries from schedules 5 and 6 on the basis of the apparent agreement between the parties. Similarly, Northwestern's proposed PPA that left dispatch control to CVC did not include a deduction for capacity that was going to be reserved for self-supply of ancillary services. In the testimony of, I believe it was Daryl Grant, you'll find tables that list the specific amount of energy that would be required to self-supply, or a reservation of capacity that would be required to self-supply those ancillary services. The final order included a deduction to take out of the capacity payment the specific amount of capacity required to self-supply. On reconsideration, Northwestern's proposed PPA did not include such a deduction for capacity. And as a result, the draft order reverses that and removes the deduction to capacity to reflect what it appears Northwestern was willing to agree to at the beginning of this case. Those are the two major substantive changes from the final order that the commission previously issued, but it's also worth noting that CVC, in addition to their motion for reconsideration, filed a motion to compel Northwestern to produce work papers associated with the compliance filing, the calculation of the actual avoided costs that would result from all the commission's decisions. Northwestern did not file a response to that. It appears to be uncontested. As a result, the order on reconsideration here also disposes of that motion by granting it, by directing Northwestern to provide the work papers in addition to its compliance filing that calculates the avoided costs. This way, everyone, commission staff, CVC's experts can review, even MCC's experts can review the calculation and make sure that it adheres to what the commission has decided on each of these contested issues. There's some additional clarification offered in the order on reconsideration, which is important, but I won't discuss it unless the commissioners have any particular questions about those clarifications. With that, the staff recommendation is to approve the draft order on reconsideration and issue that as the final order on reconsideration of the commission. I would note that we have already identified a number of typos in that order. So I would request the commission's indulgence to make some non-substantive edits that would clean up those typos, clean up citations without making any substantive changes to the disposition of the issues involved here. So with that, I note that Will and Neil from regulatory played a critical central role in all of this. So I pass it over to Neil if he has anything to add.
Mr. Templeton waves off. All right, I'll make the motion. I move that the commission approve the draft order as the commission's order on reconsideration, subsequent thereto or inclusive thereof, that we approve CBC's motion to produce the work papers. And I further move that the commission authorize staff to make further edits to improve clarity and accuracy of the order without changing the disposition of the issues prior to its issuance. Is there a second?
Second that motion, Mr. President.
I'll recognize Commissioner Fielder. All right, motion has been seconded. Discussion? Commissioner Fielder?
Mr. President, we received this draft order Friday afternoon. I think it was pretty late in the afternoon, as I recall, and I took it upon myself to assign it to myself as weekend work. And I was actually, to be honest, dreading it a little bit. I had other plans for my Saturday, but I will say that going through this, I was actually absolutely delighted with the quality of work that I found here and the clarity of the response to the different motions that were made. So I appreciate staff's effort on this. I think this is a very, very good quality piece of work, and I'm happy to support this motion wholeheartedly.
Okay, Commissioner Fielder, additional discussion? Vice President Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. President. As Commission knows, I'm not a big fan of granting a reconsideration without there being truly compelling reasons for us to revisit decisions. But I have to say, I concur with Commissioner Fielder's evaluation of the work that staff has done here. I think it's exceptional. I think their recommendations are eminently logical, and I certainly will support the motion, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of my motion signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed signify by saying no. Seeing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. Okay, that concludes our work session portion of our meeting. I have a couple announcements to make. At 1 o'clock today, here in the Bollinger Room, we will be having a hearing on the integrated resource planning. This is from docket 2021.01.007, implementation of House Bill 597. This will be live streamed and recorded. Members of the public are encouraged to make public comment on our rulemaking. The DOE, or Department of Energy National Transmission Needs Study webinar that was scheduled for Thursday, the 18th, was canceled by the Department of Energy. So that will not be held. And then our next commission business meeting will be Tuesday, August 23rd, 2022 at 9:30 a.m. All right, there being no further business, I will adjourn this. The time is now 10:10 and I will adjourn this meeting.